Today we have a special guest from Prisma. Hello and welcome in Warsaw. What's your name?
Hi, I'm Daniel Norman from Prisma.
What is Prisma and where are you located?
So Prisma is an open source next generation ORM for Node.js and TypeScript. We also have experimental support for Go. And the whole idea of Prisma is to make the life of developers working with databases easier. And we do that by really focusing on two pillars, on productivity and confidence. Probably the most important things when you're working with a database. And Prisma consists essentially of three tools. Prisma Client, which is the database client that is automatically generated for you and it gives you that type safety. Prisma Migrate, which is the migrations tool. It allows you to do declarative data modeling and still do imperative migrations, and the migrations are generated for you. And finally, we have Prisma Studio, which is the modern and intuitive database GUI, which you can use to interact and explore your data. And all of this is sort of brought together with this Prisma schema, which is the single source of truth for your database models, your database schema and your application models.
So, what do you do in Prisma and how do you see your future with this company?
So I work as a developer advocate at Prisma, which means that I'm engaging a lot with the community, working on tutorials, guides, and just making it easier for developers to get started and get up and running with Prisma. And prior to that, I was working as a software engineer for about 10, 11 years by now. And where do I see myself in the future in Prisma? Well, I think for me, whatever it is that I do, whether that's software development or developer advocacy, I think it's all driven by curiosity and learning and a desire to just grow and work with interesting people. And so I hope that I get to continue doing that because we have a really lovely team. I hope you get to meet some of them today, and just continue doing that.
Do you also work remotely in Prisma and how do you feel about it?
That's a great question. So when I started at Prisma, I had already worked prior remotely back in 2019 before COVID came around. And I started in February 2020, just before the pandemic hit. And we had an office. We're based in Berlin. And at that point, we sort of realized, okay, we have to make that full transition. So now Prisma is a remote first company and we're distributed across the world. And of course, doing remote work brings its own sort of set of challenges. But I think that having the ability to sort of meet in person every once in a while, to like sort of build those professional relationships and to sort of bond and connect with your colleagues is an important aspect. But on the other hand, I love working remotely and sort of the flexibility that this allowed. So I think following some kind of a hybrid model is great. And because we have an office in Berlin, I still have the chance to go and really meet in person with my colleagues.
Have you enjoyed Warsaw JS meetup yesterday?
Yeah, well, I think this is like a two-part question. So first of all, Warsaw, it's such a lovely city. I came here for the first time 10 years ago. On just a tourist visit as a tourist, and then the last time was for Front Trends, I think back in 2016, and I really sort of got to see how Warsaw evolved over the time and developed. And so it's really lovely to see the dynamism of Poland and especially Warsaw, just seeing how it's evolving. And Warsaw JS, well, last year I think I gave the first talk around June for Warsaw JS, and that was sort of my introduction to the Warsaw JavaScript community, and that was really nice. But all of the events that all of the talks that I've given were remote, and this is the first time that I'm actually coming and doing something in person. And so yesterday was really, really lovely just to be able to meet you and have also informal chats, something that I think the online format doesn't really give. And so it was super lovely, and now we're having this breakfast together. With Prisma, and we have a lot of people coming, so it's super nice, and I hope to come again, and I hope that also you will come to Berlin so that we'll be able to sort of continue this friendship.
Which cartoon character do you see yourself?
This is a fun question. I grew up watching Moomins, and at the time when I was growing up, I didn't know that it was a Finnish show. But I think one of the characters that really spoke to me was Snufkin, and so yeah, that would be my choice, Snufkin from the Moomins.
Hi, my name is Jakub, and what I do at Prisma, I do code.
Do you have some interesting story about creating Prisma?
Yeah, so it's actually quite interesting from the lean startup perspective. Prisma was founded as a different, like under the different name. It was GraphCool. It was a similar but different product, and then they learned and they pivoted into Prisma, actual Prisma One platform that we've built before. And now, after another pivot, we've created this open source toolkit for dealing with databases, and now we are growing a platform on top of that. So I think it is pretty interesting.
Have you enjoyed Warsaw JS meetup yesterday?
Yeah, so it was quite nice to visit Warsaw. It's the capital city of my country, and it's been a long time since I visited, so it's super cool. The lineup was really great. The talk about the museum and the usage of JavaScript and all these technologies in the Warsaw Uprising Museum, it was really cool to see, really entertaining, really creative use of the stack that we all use on the daily basis. So a really good conference. The networking session was really good. The organization was really good. I enjoyed the event a lot.
What do you think about remote work during the pandemic?
Yeah, so actually it's quite... For some people it was quite different. For some people it was quite natural switch. I think that the remote work is going to stay with us. And I think actually for young companies it is a pretty interesting situation in which they can tap into the global workforce. So like you can, as a company, you can hire in Poland, you can hire in Ukraine, you can hire people in the States. There are no issues with that, and you can all work towards the shared goal that you've got as a company. The other way around is also quite nice. As an employee of a company, you are not limited to your geography. You don't work in a radius of 25 kilometers around your city, and that's about it. You can actually be hired by companies around the world. So I do think that there is some challenge in remote work. Not having these social interactions and not being able to simply reach out to a colleague sitting next to you. But on the other hand, there are some positives too. So let's see how it goes.
And the last question, but not less important, if you were a Pokemon, which one would you be?
It's a funny question. I think I will go with classic and say Pikachu.